Hello and welcome to the Her Handmade Hustle Unplugged podcast. I'm Joanne Pierce. I'm a female entrepreneur and small creative business owner who started this podcast to help other women like me who just want to make a career out of their talent, whatever it may be. Mine is creating handmade event stationery. I am a self-confessed paper addict. I love anything to do with stationery. I've got like a million notepads in my house. It's ridiculous. But I just love making stationery for people's special occasions, and my business is called Vintage Twee. So whatever it is that you do, or maybe you want to do, I hope that my podcast gives you some inspiration and motivation, or even a kick up the arse if that's what you need from time to time. I'll do that for you. And a few laughs, because I'm as honest as they come. I don't hide anything. I don't pretend to have the perfect life or the perfect business, because I don't. Who does? But what I do have is a lot of experience, which I share with you all here on my podcast in the hope that it helps you on your small business journey, whatever stage you may be at. If you follow me on social media, first of all, thank you. But you'll see that I'm entering the British Podcast Awards 2024. Crazy thought I had one night when I was just Googling. I thought, oh, that looks good. Should we give it a go? You never know. They're basically annual awards that have been set up to recognise, in their words, not mine, excellence, talent, passion and originality in British podcasting. Now, like I say, I've got absolutely no idea if I'm being totally unrealistic here, but I'm going to enter, because you never know. I just saw it at the weekend and I thought, right, Joanne, it's time to practice what you preach. Put yourself out there. Be brave. So I've been rallying people around all weekend to cast a vote for the Her Handmade Hustle podcast for the listener's choice. Why not? I'm well aware there are plenty of other podcasts out there for women in business, but I just thought, well, great, I'm going to try. You've got to be in it to win it. So thank you from the bottom of my heart if you've taken the time to vote. It means a lot. The podcast, to be honest, my podcast is the only sort of thing that has kept me busy and distracted, and it's just been sort of enormous help to me while I've been recovering from my breast surgeries and just dealing with all the other crap that life has dumped on me and my family. And I'm going to keep doing it because I absolutely love it. So if you love it too, or even if you like it just a little bit, or you enjoy it just a tiny bit, please vote for me. It would be so much appreciated. I'll put the link to vote on the show notes of this episode, but you can also find it on my website and social media pages. And also, if you tag the British Podcast Awards into a social media post that you do and say who you voted for, it will give your small business some exposure to. So, win-win. I think it's just hashtag British Podcast Awards, but I'll put it in the show notes so that you can have all the information there if you need it. Right, so let's get to today's episode. I've been looking forward to doing this one. I'm going to have a good moan. No, what are we talking about? Okay, so if you've been following me on Instagram this last week, you'll probably have a good idea. If you have got school-age kids, by now you're going to be planning your survival for the next 6 weeks. Now, by the time this podcast episode goes out, I will be on day 1. Obviously, I've recorded this in advance because there's absolutely no chance of doing it with a 4-year-old prancing around the lounge singing Let It Go or screaming at me for snacks every 2 minutes. And I think if you're in Scotland, you may also be a couple of weeks into the summer holidays by now. Hats off to you if you're listening to this and you're obviously still alive at this point. I mean, I know, I sound awful, don't I, moaning about it. And I don't want you to think that I don't love my child or I don't want to spend time with her. Of course I do. She is my world. She's my little shadow, follows me around everywhere. And she's my reason for riding this emotional roller coaster of being self-employed day in and day out and never quitting. But, I'm not going to hide the fact that for us self-employed women and, working mums in general, it's going to be tough. There's no easy way through it. So I thought we'd use today's podcast episode to give you some tips and strategies to survive the school holidays if you're self-employed. I've been listening to a lot of these sorts of advice podcasts, or there's posts on social media everywhere at the moment telling you how to get through the school holidays if you're self-employed. And quite frankly, they've all been annoying me, because they're going on about things that you can do that just aren't realistic. Planning ahead, yeah, okay, great. If you can, brilliant. But I know that I can't plan anything other than 24 hours in advance. I just haven't got the brain capacity to do it. So yeah, planning ahead, scheduling all your social media posts. Again, I don't know what I want to talk about tomorrow, let alone next week or the week after. Delegating, outsourcing, all these words that people are using to say what you should be doing during the school holidays. Well, actually, is any of it even possible? Especially when you've got young children. So I wanted to use today's episode, like I say, to have a little bit of a moan about that, but also to give you some actual real things that you can do that are doable, that are feasible, that if you do have kids, nipping at your heels during the next 6 weeks, then these are things that you can do to sort of keep your business ticking over, because that's probably as good as you're going to get during the next few weeks. Don't expect too much of yourself. And also, I am going to be just mentioning a few small businesses towards the end of this podcast who have contributed their ideas, and they're all working mums. They're all like me and you, and they have given me some advice to relay to you of what they do when they need to get some work done and they have got their kids running around driving them mental. So I'm going to mention those, so listen out if you have contributed on my social media pages to this. Thank you so much. I'll be giving you a mention shortly. So, in my opinion, okay, there are 5 stages of emotions that I think all mothers go through as the 6 weeks descend upon us, okay? Unless, of course, you're Mary Poppins. I mean, she probably doesn't feel like this, but I do. So number 1, I think, is denial. Now, I've been stuck in this stage for approximately 2 months, I'd say. I might just be coming out of it now this week. I'm ready to enter stage 2, which we'll get to in a minute. But stage 1, denial, it's the one where you don't acknowledge the fact that it's happening, in the hope that actually, the government are going to realise that the number of weeks of holidays that the kids get in relation to the average working parent is ridiculous. It's like 13 weeks per year for kids versus like an average of 4 weeks per year for adults. It's totally unrealistic. And it's virtually impossible to manage when you work. So you're hoping secretly, that they're going to decide to reduce it to like 1 week, and then parents can breathe a huge sigh of relief. Because you know what? It's not that we don't want to enjoy our 6 weeks off with our kids. Of course we do. They are they're the best part of childhood, isn't it? Ones that we all remember, the summer holidays, where we get to make memories and we get to spend time with them. I've got some amazing memories of my summer holidays, and I look forward to it so much. But it's often tainted with this pressure to keep our finances going. If you work for yourself, it's not an option just to down tools for 6 weeks, especially if it's your only source of income, which it is for me. I know my memories of the school holidays, like I say, they were wonderful. They were simple, but they were so happy. We didn't have loads of money. My mum didn't work. My dad was a barber with his own business, and he supported us all on his earnings. So my mum took care of us and the home. And by us, I mean me and my sister Emma. There was 2 of us. So she was with us all summer long. I don't know how she did it. But, I don't really remember going to anyone else, during the summer holidays while she had some time to herself. We just played. We played day in and day out. She didn't drive, so we didn't really go anywhere that was far away. I sometimes hopped on the 192 bus to Stockport, but that was about it. And the rest of the time, we just played out on the street with our friends. My mum played Barbies with me and my sister, or shops, or libraries. We baked, or we got my making box out, and we made things. It was proper quality time. Which leads me on to the second stage of emotions felt by mothers during the school holidays, and that's anger. Now, I'm not talking like physical violence here or psychopathic screaming, shouting at your kids. I'm not talking about that. It's more of a anger for not being able to feel as carefree as we want to. And perhaps my mum did. She didn't have the worry of splitting her time between her kids and her job. Her kids were her job. And she did. She gave us 12 hours a day of her undivided attention. There was no mobile phones, pinging every 2 minutes, distracting her, demanding for her attention like there is now. There wasn't that financial pressure of her having to work. And there wasn't that guilt that we feel, because as much as we want to forget about work for 6 whole weeks, we just can't. And that's especially true if you work for yourself. So I think the anger that we feel is more a result of this frustration that we can't spend the time exactly how we would like, but instead, one of my favourite quotes is having to work like we don't have children, yet raise children as if we don't have to work. So of course we are angry about it. We might not go around hitting things and like tearing down curtains like I put a funny reel out last week, which made me laugh, showing the 5 different stages of emotions that mothers go through during the school holidays. And the anger one was particularly funny. She was knocking everything off the units. And it's just how you feel inside. You feel angry that you can't relax and enjoy that time. So stage 3, I think, of our emotional journey as working mothers during the school holidays is bargaining. Now, we all have to use this tool numerous times, don't we? Never mind the school holidays, but like on a daily basis with our kids. And the bargaining stage is when we realise that, in order to get anything done over the next 6 weeks, we're going to have to go in hard with the negotiating skills, right? Bribery is your best friend. You're going to find yourself saying things like, oh, if you can just watch Blippi just until mummy finishes her work, then we can go to the park or have some sweets. Or, if you've got a really tough negotiator like my 4-year-old, who actually my friend says she should be working for the UN, she's that good. We'll play face paint ladies, and then she can paint you as a unicorn. And they end up going to Tesco with a giant phallic-shaped horn on your forehead. It's just the sort of stuff you've got to do, isn't it, to get things done. But, we've got to do what we've got to do. And bargaining is a useful technique which we all have to draw on before the next stage of emotion can be reached. And that leads me on to stage 4, which is depression. Okay, so I'm not talking about crying, sitting there rocking in a corner, which, you may be doing by the end of the 6 weeks. But it's like when the bargaining doesn't work, or you've used all your ammo and they're just not having it. You just sink into the armchair, totally defeated, and you realise that this is it for the next 6 weeks. So me and my sister, we used to love the film Overboard. The one with Goldie Hawn, the original one, not the remake that came out. And we always liken any extended time with our kids to that bit in the film where Goldie Hawn's character Annie, she's looked after like 4, 5 kids, I don't know how many they've got, all day. She's not used to it. And then Kurt Russell comes home from work and she's just sat there in the armchair, like staring into space, like totally checked out. Like a complete empty shell, and she's just like muttering burr, 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 while one of the kids is like throwing cereal at her head. It's so funny and it's so true. And we often send each other, me and my sister, a gif of Goldie Hawn doing the burr, 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 burr thing when we've had a full day, hard day with our kids. And I think the depression, excuse me, I think it hits hard, and there's only really one thing that you can do when that happens, and it's just go and have a good cry. In a dark room, alone, wherever you can grab 5 minutes, just let it out. Because you're allowed to feel overwhelmed and stressed and depressed and whatever the hell you want, right? 6 weeks is a long bloody time to juggle it all. So release all those emotions when you can, so you don't bubble over and just explode. It's good for you. Okay, then the final stage of our emotional school holiday journey is acceptance. Okay, that's when you finally realise it's happening. And actually, you're in the midst of it. You're probably halfway through the holidays at this point, and you're doing okay. Everyone's still alive. It's good. I mean, I usually hit this stage around probably week 4 of the holidays. I've kind of got into my groove a little bit. I have a bit of a routine going, and I've adjusted to the stress levels. I'm working on getting to stage 5 quicker. I think it'd be much better for my mental health all round. But for now, at least I'm reaching it, and I'm managing to accept it for what it is. The good days, the bad days, the exciting days, boring days, and everything in between. You're going to get them all. And when I wrote the outline for this episode, I originally included loads of like generic tips for managing your work when your kids are off school. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, as I was writing it, I just realised that actually, as good as it sounded in theory, it really wasn't that realistic. And like I said, social media, it's just been swamped lately with the summer holidays approaching. And it's lots of like business coaches laying out their strategies for coping and managing stress when you're self-employed and you've got the summer holidays to contend with, my top 10 tips for juggling work-life balance during the summer holidays and all that. And originally I thought that's what I should be talking about today too, because it sounded very authoritative and professional. Things like, the importance of planning ahead and scheduling social media posts, or time blocking, blocking out 1 or 2 hours every day when it's time for you to work. But then I realised I'd be talking about stuff that, although it does sound professional and credible, and it makes me look good, like I know what I'm talking about, in reality, it doesn't work, okay? Especially if you've got young children. Like, for example, time blocking for me is more like 10 minutes a day to check my email. Even that's always interrupted, by an emergency poo or a snack request, or a minor injury of some sort of kind. It's just not feasible, nor is it in my belief system to advise other self-employed mothers out there about things that I know don't really work or are doable. It's like the whole scheduling and planning ahead. Yes, oh my God, we'd all love to have 6 weeks worth of social media content just planned, and it'll be automatically posted twice a day. So then you can go and enjoy frolicking in the paddling pool without giving it a second thought, right? But the reality is, most of us struggle to plan that day's social media content. And it's in between everything else we've got to do, okay? It's just not realistic to say to people, try and plan 6 weeks worth of, social media posts. It's just not. I mean, if you've managed it, bloody well done, right? Hats off to you. I haven't. I really haven't. I haven't even got tomorrow's planned. Okay. But, when it comes to planning over the summer holidays, I would say that you'd be better planning one post for the next day, perhaps when they're in bed and you've got the peace and quiet to concentrate. It's when I do all of mine. I mean, I say I can't even plan a week in advance. I've tried, but, sometimes I don't know what I want to talk about yet. And I like to keep it quite current. So something that I want to talk about has probably not happened yet. So therefore, I find it really hard to plan ahead. But I'd rather keep it simple, and I don't want to get overwhelmed. So I just do one post, which I schedule for the next day at night, as soon as my daughter is asleep, put her to bed. I come downstairs, I get on my phone, I'll do my post. It might take me half an hour, schedule it. Then I know tomorrow that's going out, and I don't have to think about it for the whole of the next day until the evening, when again, I've got the headspace to think and I can plan the next days. So that works for me. And it's the same with time management. Okay, it won't go exactly how you plan it to, with all the best will in the world. Okay, if you are not home alone, your schedule will be out of the window. All right, so I've noticed that a lot of coaches are saying, manage your time by having like focused work time and establishing a routine, where your kids know every morning from say like 9 till 11, mummy has to work at her computer while they play independently, watch a 2-hour film or have a nap. Right, well, if you are a coach preaching this as sound advice to ensure you get a chance to work on your business, then you either A, don't have kids, B, do have kids and have been extremely lucky, or C, you're totally deluded, because my experience and 99.9% of other mothers I speak to, focused work time means hiding in the bathroom for about 3.5 minutes to reply to the most important emails before a small human comes bursting in, demanding to know where you've been, what you're doing. Like, you can't escape. I mean, I've hid in the loft before. No lie, right? I've got up them ladders and I've hid in the loft. Granted, my husband was in the house at the time, but I could hear my little girl saying, "Where's mummy? Where is she? Daddy, I can't find her." And I've literally pulled the ladders up and hid in the loft. I might have got 10 minutes or so before I got discovered. But there is no way that my child will play independently for 15 minutes, let alone 2 hours. And if she does have TV time, It's never as simple as putting on a Disney film, giving her a bowl of popcorn, and then not hearing a peep from her for the next 2 hours while I can crack on and get all my emails done. I mean, for a start, she won't watch a film. Okay, it's all about YouTube and the YouTube videos, which are annoying in themselves, but also require me to either skip the adverts every 2.5 minutes or explain why these children live in mansions and we don't. Right, it's exhausting. And then you've got naps. As far as naps go, forget it. Okay, so unless you have a really little one and you can catch maybe an hour or so while they're sleeping, but most likely when they're asleep, you'll either be asleep next to them or you'll be doing something other than working to try and enjoy that little bit of time that you've got to yourself, that bit of freedom. So my advice is, if you can, forget about time blocking. You know, it's just, if you can do it, great, but don't put that pressure on yourself. I would say either get up early in the morning, like an hour before they wake up, to do what you need to do. And only that, because you know it's like, you get distracted and you end up doing all different kinds of things, watching videos yourself on YouTube and stuff. But take that hour, not to scroll Facebook, but to answer your important emails or do whatever it is that you know is going to stress you out in the daytime. Or do it at night when they're in bed. It just takes that pressure off in the day, so you know that you've got that time set aside at the beginning and at the end of the day to get done what you need to do. Yes, you know what? There is no hiding the fact you are going to be knackered. Getting up early, especially if your kid doesn't sleep like mine, you're going to be tired. But it's short term, and it's better than spending your days all stressed out and snappy because you're thinking about all the things that you should be doing and that you need to be doing, when actually what you want to be doing is just sat enjoying your time with your child. Delegate and outsource. That's a favourite summer holiday strategy that's always talked about. Well, most of us, if you're self-employed, you're operating as a one-woman band, okay? And our work is often skilled. It's a talent. It's our talent, something that only we can do. And I am never able to outsource my work. I never have been, because there's only me who knows how to bloody do it. Like, I can't teach someone how to do what I do because it comes from my hands, my fingertips. I make everything from scratch in my stationery business. So I'm not able to outsource my work, right? And you probably may not be able to do that either. And again, I find it hard to delegate because it's only me doing everything. So both of those things aren't really an option for a lot of us. But what I can do is I can ask for help from family or friends to maybe entertain my daughter for a couple of hours one morning while I catch up. But again, that's not always possible either, because I haven't got a lot of family around that will help. And my friends, they've already got their own kids. You know, they've already got enough on their plate. So I don't always have friends to go to and to ask for some sort of babysitting from time to time. So what do I do? Well, first of all, I might take on less work and just accept that it's the way it is for now. Again, short term, 6 weeks, I'll get through it. Or I look at like what I could get someone to do for me. So something that doesn't require a particular skill. And it might just be like a bit of admin. Or one thing that I find really helpful is like preparing my packaging materials. So my dad sometimes comes and he cuts up the bubble wrap for me, so it's ready in like strips for packing into the boxes when I get my orders. He's folded postal boxes for me before. I've done a bit of prep like that. I mean, I sent him home once with like 200 flat cardboard boxes, to assemble. And he'd do like 25 a night while he was watching telly. I mean, he used to text me like every night going, bloody hell, there's a lot of boxes here. How many did you give me? And I'd like snuck an extra 50 or so in. And they were never ending apparently. But, you know, a couple of months later, he brought them all back to me. But, you know, it helped. It helped massively because it was all done and they were ready for me, stacked up. So when I got an order in, I could just grab the bubble wrap, grab the box and pack it. So although people might not actually be able to help you create your items, you can ask them to help you do some prep instead of things that take up your time, but don't actually require your talent. So another thing that you can do if you want to try and get some form of work done in the daytime, maybe your kids are a bit older, you know, this one's easier if you've got older kids, but maybe you can try and involve them. So again, obviously this doesn't really work if your kids are under 5, they'll do the exact opposite of what you tell them to do. And it's just not even worth attempting. It's too stressful. But if your kids are, say, like 6 and above, maybe, they might enjoy helping you. Some kind of work-related activity. You could get them to sort out your craft supplies by colour, size, material, even if you don't even need it doing. It'll make them feel important. It'll make them feel like they're in the room with you and they're working. Give them stuff to count. So I recently made these favours for an upcoming event, and my daughter helped, and she helped by counting out the number of seashells that had to go in these little bottles that I was making. I mean, as an activity, it lasted about 30 minutes, but it was 30 minutes of work that I wouldn't have got done otherwise, and actually it did help me a little bit. Another thing that's worked for me is this idea of now and next, which is sort of technique suggested to me by my daughter's psychologist, who's absolutely fabulous. And it works really well for younger children. So particularly those who might struggle with the concept of time and who don't understand, when it's time to play and when mummy isn't available. It works really well also with kids like mine who need a routine and the safety blanket of a structure, which is obviously all gone in the summer holidays, isn't it? It's just like a free-for-all. And kids don't know if they're coming or going. We don't know if we're coming or going. So they're looking to us all the time for some direction of what's coming next and what we're doing now. I mean, God, how many times do you hear a day? What are we doing now, mummy? What are we doing now, mummy? What are we doing next? So let's take the guessing game out of it and do a now and next sort of activity for them. And what you need to do is like make a picture timeline of your activities for the day so they know what's happening now and what's coming next, and it helps them visualize their day. So like maybe you get up and you've got a picture of your breakfast, and then maybe you do want to try and do an hour's work, so you have a picture of your, I don't know, computer or whatever, and then you have for them a little play sign, and then they've got to play during that time. And then you have a lunch picture, and then maybe you go to the park, have a park picture. Just like plan the day out for them. And I found it's made my daughter a little bit more accepting of the fact that my time does need to be split a little bit, and it can't always be 100% focused on her. So it might be something that will work for you too. Another thing that always makes me laugh when you read these top 10 things you must do to survive the school holidays is self-care. Take some time for you. Make sure you spend time doing something you enjoy, a hobby, some meditation to keep calm, reduce the stress levels. Right, well, this might be possible in an ideal world, perhaps in Never Never Land, where the kids eat all their vegetables. They play harmoniously and they leave you alone for a whole hour so you can enjoy a peaceful bath. Not in our house, and probably not in 90% of the houses that I know that have got children. Self-care to parents at the best of times, let alone during the school holidays, it's like what a unicorn is to a child, right? It's a lovely, magical idea that just does not exist. I mean, my husband, right, he can disappear for three times a day for like 3 half-hour sessions in the bathroom. God knows what he's doing in there, right? He can enjoy an hour or two of uninterrupted time on his PS5 in the middle of the day without a titter from my daughter. She doesn't bother him. And he'll totally agree. He knows that this is the case. Mummy dares to fulfil any of her basic human needs, like have a wee, eat, drink, and all hell breaks loose. I think my record for being in the toilet alone currently stands at about 1 minute and 35 seconds before someone comes bursting in and I'm discovered. Another prime example, actually, I can tell you about, so I'll make you laugh, was from when I met up with my sister a couple of weekends ago. So some of you may know she lives in Hertfordshire, down south. I'm up north in Derbyshire. And we arranged with our families to meet in the middle so we could see each other, because it had been a long time, 4 months since I had my operation, and we've just not seen each other. It's been really hard. So we decided to meet halfway, stay overnight in this lovely hotel, and the staff were just so nice and wonderful. And the next day, all the children were like playing in the gardens with their dads and their granddad. So we looked at each other and we thought, they're actually playing quite happily here. So shall we seize the opportunity to sneak off together and have a coffee? Now, we don't even remember the last time we did it. I don't know, it must have been a couple of years at least, right? So we thought, let's do it, let's go. We deserve this. Anyway, the lovely lady on reception, who is obviously a mother as well, totally understood our situation, and she told us to go and hide ourselves in this secret room where there were like 2 armchairs waiting for us. And she was like, just go in there, I'll bring you your coffee, shut the door, we'll never find you. So we literally ran into this room. You don't need to tell us twice, honestly, and went incognito, right? We were ducking down every time a member of our family went past the window. It was so funny. It means what we have to do for 30 minutes of uninterrupted adult time. And we could see the kids searching for us in the garden, right? I know it sounds really mean, but we could see them looking for us. But we had to drop this guilt because we needed that time together as 2 sisters who have been to hell and back over the past 18 months with our breast surgeries and now Emma's cancer. And we had to be a bit selfish. So, I mean, we got discovered after about 30 minutes. A little boy hurt his knee, bless him. But we had a decent run. We had some time together. So my advice is don't expect too much self-care during the summer, if any, okay? At least not the kind that we envisage, like peaceful baths or meditation. It's not going to happen. Instead, we've got to find some realistic ways that you can have a mental or physical break, even for an hour during each day. Okay, so for me, I like to enlist the help of my fellow entrepreneur mums, people with their own businesses, who are flexible. They understand totally what I need to get done. They know how hard it is, and we can help each other out a bit by doing like childcare swaps for a couple of hours a day, or even just spending time together so that the kids can go off and play, and we can have some adult conversation and a bit of a vent. So another good idea, which I know a lot of us already do, is to leverage technology. I mean, Jesus, if you're lucky enough that they're going to sit and watch TV for an hour, because mine will not, or go on their tablets, just go with it. It's there to help us out when we need it. And if we can't get a real babysitter, then a digital one will do. Okay, these are all realistic forms of self-care, and it helps us manage the stress of the summer holidays. So I think we've put all the idealistic bullshit theories to bed that we know just won't work with any children that are under a metre tall, because they just won't. Right, so let's talk about the actual things that we can do to keep the kids off our backs, engaged and thriving during the school holidays, when we might need to tend to our businesses from time to time, because we're going to have to. And I've mentioned a few things already that I do, but this last week I've been asking other women in business, like real working mothers, their go-to strategies for surviving during the summer holidays when you work for yourself, because I think it's the best source of information. It's like gold dust, all this information from women who are going through it. It's really helpful to know. I said all these women have their own small businesses. So the ones that I mentioned, please do go, give them a follow on their social media pages, because their advice has been really valuable. And I, for one, I'm going to be doing most of the things that they shared with me. So I'm going to share them with you too. So let's talk, first of all, Roseanne, I think that's how you say your name, from Flutter by Home. She runs a beautiful small business creating gift boxes, and they're filled with like gorgeous home decor pieces to style your home. Such a lovely idea. And she said that soft play for her has been a total saviour. She said you can let your kids run wild for a couple of hours, and she takes her laptop along to do bits when she can, and that's such a good idea. My daughter's only just started to want to go off independently during soft play with, people she meets in there or a friend that we go with. So I just need to keep like a watchful eye on her rather than having to like climb through those bloody rabbit warrens, or them tiny openings to get to the top. I mean, they are not made for adults. Like, seriously, why do they expect us to follow them and, get that involved? I mean, one time I actually got stuck in between those roller things, and she practically like dragged me through them, and I just couldn't get in or out. I was completely stuck. It was so embarrassing. Anyway, hopefully my soft play days will be behind me soon. We can move on to the next phase of whatever it is that she's into. But that was a great suggestion from Flutter by Home. So if you want to look her up on Instagram, her handle is #FlutterBy Home. So thank you for that. Eliza from Digital Mum Marketing, she is a mum of 2 herself, so she knows exactly where we're coming from, and she had some great advice actually. She's got her own business creating digital products to help other mums in business, and she told me some ways that she entertains her kids during the school holidays. There are some really good ideas, okay? So grab a pen, actually, because I've wrote some of these down for myself. She said you could do some indoor and outdoor scavenger hunts, which I think is a fantastic idea because you can then send them on a wild goose chase, like around the house or garden, whatever, for like a whole hour and then just not see them. It's great. Love it. Absolutely love that idea, Eliza. Another one, old sheet painting in the garden. This is a really good one too if your kids like getting messy. Let them get their hands, their feet, everything just covered in paint on an old sheet. I mean, my kid, she would love this. I'm just going to have an exit plan of some kind so that she doesn't like traipse it through the whole house. I'm thinking maybe hose pipe. That'd be a good one. Hose her down before she leaves the garden. And she also suggested a slip and slide and just dance videos on YouTube. Didn't think about that one. That's a really good idea. All excellent ideas. And quite frankly, Eliza, your house sounds like a right ball of fun. I love it. Absolutely love it. Fab ideas. Those ideas are just some fab summer holiday activities that will shape some amazing childhood memories for our little ones, because that's what it's all about, isn't it, at the end of the day? Anne from Annie's Frames. Anne is one of my wonderful, talented ladies that I met through my Facebook group. And she listens to my podcast every week. I love you, Anne. Thank you so much. And Anne makes these beautiful personalised frames for the home, using them as gifts as well. And she's got a longer term ambition to open her own coffee shop. How cool is that? That was like an ultimate dream. I would love to do that too one day. And she's got an 11-year-old son, excuse me, but she's been working from home since he was 7, sorry, not she was 7. That would be weird. Anyway, she's had a lot of advice to give to get us mothers through. So I'll run through those quickly. So she says, don't be too hard on yourself. You can only do what you can do. She says, give them a rough structure, like a lunch time, go out, do an activity, have some quiet time, because kids respond well to it at school, don't they? So it's good to kind of keep that up and do it at home as well. She says, promise them some one-on-one time and stick to it. So that way, if you do have some work to do, then they know that they have got that promise of that time with you waiting for them at the end of it. Arrange a play date midweek, break the week up for you. Get out there, speak to other people, see human beings, other mothers that are also suffering and struggling. Get toys out they haven't played with for a while. This is something actually that really works for my daughter Eden. Things that I get out of the loft that she's not seen for ages, maybe even a baby toys, but it keeps her engaged for so much longer than her other toys. And she says, just embrace the mess, because having toys out on the table, for example, it encourages them to play with them rather than just being locked away in boxes all stacked up on the shelf, because they can visually see them, so they're more likely to kind of go back and forward and play with them voluntarily on their own. So I know it's tempting to pack everything away neatly in boxes, but I'm going to do my best this summer to try and keep everything out and just let her play as freely as she can and go between different activities to keep her entertained. Anne says, accept any help that you can get, like we already mentioned, family and friends, whoever, get them on board. Book a holiday club if they'll go. Mine won't, unfortunately, but if they will, brilliant, roll with it, do it. Don't let them get hungry. Hangry is a real thing. Absolutely 100%. I get it. My daughter gets it. It's not good. Don't let them get to that point. Although I don't think that's actually a danger in our house, because I get asked for a snack literally every 5 minutes. It cost me a fortune in the summer holidays. She says, get outside, have a walk or go in the garden. She has a game that she plays with her son where she fills balloons with water. They play catch with them, so it's quite good fun. If the balloons burst, you get absolutely soaked. Kids love that kind of thing, don't they? Whether it's sunny or not, doesn't matter. It's a bit of fun. And then also says, don't worry about screen time. Just have a cut-off, perhaps an hour before bed, so that they're not all wired before sleep, and stick to their bedtime routine just to avoid them becoming overtired and evil. I love this, because it's true, isn't it? They just get so evil when they're tired. So that's such fantastic advice. Thank you, Anne, for all that. I know I'm definitely going to be using some of those over the next few weeks. So let's recap quickly on what we've talked about in today's episode. I hope you've enjoyed it so far. So we've basically said that we're all going to go through the 5 stages of emotions when our kids finish school for 6 long weeks. It's unavoidable. You wouldn't be normal if you didn't. But the best thing to do is work your way through them and don't resist them. It's less painful that way. Forget about these idealistic tips developed by people who either don't have kids or they don't have challenging kids, They aren't realistic and they will just set you up for failure. So instead, do manageable things, realistic things like make use of early mornings before they're awake or evenings when they're in bed. Just do any work that you need to do. And just don't try and plan or schedule ahead of the whole 6 weeks because it's overwhelming and quite frankly, it's just totally unrealistic. So instead, just do it during your designated work time, whether it be 10 minutes or half an hour. Okay, do it then. And don't expect your kids not to bug you because they're going to. If you can't delegate because your business, your work, your service, whatever, requires you and only you, then see if you can find something useful, something non-skilled that you can ask people around you to help with instead. Involve your kids in some work-related activity, even if it's just like organising or sorting your supplies or whatever. You might actually able to get them to help you. It might be useful, especially if they're a little bit older as well. With younger kids, try the now and next technique to help them visualise their day and know what's expected. And ditch the idyllic self-care expectations because, if you get 10 minutes per day alone for a peaceful brew, just consider yourself lucky, right? Instead, think of self-care as things like childcare swaps with other mums, ask friends and family to help if you have got them around, and just vent when you can. They are all realistic forms of self-care when you've got the kids around. And most of all, just remember that you're not alone. Like, everyone is in the same boat at the moment. And it's okay not to have perfect days, all right? We're doing a lot. And that's without taking care of a home, maybe working a second job, caring for other family members. We're carrying a huge load here. And I'm going to be right there with you, right? Surviving day by day, trying to keep 2 businesses ticking over. My inbox is always open, so, you can always send me a message or a comment, whatever. If you need to vent, tag me in on social media or send me a message. I'm here. I cry at least once a day about something, so I'm a good person to empathise with, trust me. But most of all, I just try and have fun, right? These 6 weeks are the most anticipated of your child's year, right? And their excitement and their pure joy at being at home for all this time with you is a reflection on you and of the amazing job that you are doing as their mother. So well done, because people don't say that often enough to you, do they? Well done. It's a credit to you that your kids want to be with you and enjoy their time. So I'm off to go and stock up some on coffee and wine to get me through the next 6 weeks. But I really hope you've enjoyed listening to this as much as I've enjoyed recording it. Don't forget, please vote for me if you can in the British Podcast Awards. It's the Listener's Choice Award. I'll put the link in the show notes, as I mentioned. So if you could just literally, it takes not even 20 seconds of your time just to type my Handmade Hustle Unplugged into the search bar that they give you and press vote. That would be amazing. If you can rate or review this episode as well and follow me on whatever platform you're listening to, that all helps too. And take a look at my new website, herhandmadehustle.co.uk, and everything is on there, all the services that I offer as a personal coach or free resources as well. It's all on there, so do go along and have a look. In regards to the next few weeks, how's summer looking for me with the podcast situation? I think I'm going to be looking at doing one every 2 weeks, so I think they're going to go fortnightly just to get through the summer holidays, and then we'll start again weekly in September. But I'll keep you updated on my social media pages as to what the schedule is for that. But for now, thank you so much for listening. I wish you all the best of luck for the summer holidays. I will be around. I will be putting podcasts out there. But yes, good luck if your kids are already finished, and enjoy your time with them. And thank you for listening. Bye for now.